a lot of DC stuff to get done. Let me see if I can straighten this out a little. We're setting up the camera a little differently, trying to get you better resolution. It's all work in progress. Uh, Hi, I'm RT Bear, and this is Portfolio Review 8. So we're really moving along on these. Thanks so much for all the input and sending me your portfolios. I really appreciate it. Hope you guys are having a good time and having fun alongside me on these. So, like I said, my name's RT Bear, and I'm a 30 plus year comic book vet. Uh, I've done pencils, inks, writing. I've worked for DC, Marvel, Image, you name it. I've done creator own. I've penciled books. I've inked books. So I've done a lot, and I'm hoping to still do a lot more. So, like I said, this is episode 8. We have, is it Kieran? What? Can I just hit no?
Yeah, I said no.
Okay. Um, Kieran Squires, I think. And I believe these are ink samples. If I'm wrong, then correct me, Kieran. And I wish I knew the penciler's name. The stuff looks real familiar, but I'm not sure. So I believe these are ink submissions. So that's why the before after pencils on the left, inks on the right. So let's get into this. So get a good shot of the pencils there. If these indeed are your pencils and inks, you are really close to being professional. Yeah, so the only thing I see, and if these are professional pencils, then I apologize because it's not cool for a professional to critique another professional. But just in case, like I said, I'm not really sure uh, who's, if these are just his inks or inks and pencils, but this isn't real symmetrical. Like the eyes. So the eyes need to be a little bit more symmetrical with each other. Maybe if this just came up a little bit here. And that was in the pencils too. So the inks don't blow up very well. It looks low res, so it's going to be hard to really review the inks based on not really being able to see them up close. Like I said, it looks low res, so this is going to be a little tough. But the one thing I see when you pull it back, it's okay, but I just can't see the quality, is there's too much pattern to things. This actually right here is quite nice. But here, it's a little heavy here, here, and it's a little similar. Let me see the pencils and see how. Yeah, they could be interpreted in a lot of different ways. I probably wouldn't have interpreted them the way they are here. They look a little mechanical and a little too patterned. I wish we could see them better. So I think what I would do is I try to make this feather more into this and maybe bring a little bit more black into here.
Joey says hello.
Hey, how are you? Welcome to the review, the new ink review. So I wish I had a better setup here that I could do this, but I think you get the idea there. It just looks like there's kind of like there's this circular shape here, which is kind of, and then there's this line here. If this black was to kind of be more in this shape, feathering was to kind of here in this area here, to fade into this black, look better. And for some reason, this kind of cut right here is weird. So I think if this had a better transition, because the shape is kind of like that, so it just seems weird. There isn't either, like these hatches need to fade off more, or they need to continue over into here, but in a lighter way, not as heavy. And like I said, I see a lot of similar patterns like here and then here with the inks.
People are saying that they've always loved your art signature.
Cool. Yeah, it's changed over the years. I'm real happy with the one I'm currently using. I really did like the AT, but then if you look, I've never said this before, but if you look at Matt Banning's signature, he used my a B in front of it and then added another T, but it's really the same if you look at my old signature and then even his current. So sorry, Bat, I just outed you. And but now, I mean, to be honest, mine's kind of based on Frank Frazetta's signature. He's got a crazy cool signature. So yeah, I think I was AT Bear for a while, then I was AT, and then I think I even signed my name TBEAR, like T dash Bear, for a while as a way to educate people on how to say my last name. Yeah, there's on here I see similar, like it just seems like quite following the patterns right, and the transition is kind of awkward. And what you always want is you want like a thin, like maybe on one side, and then it go into a thick, so it's kind of like it will fade into a black. So this is all kind of the same. It's all really solid. So I think if you picked like a light source, like if the light's coming in from left to right, which it looks like it is, I would probably go a little thinner in this area, and then I would thicken it up as it goes into this area. I hope you can see this. It's a little hard over the dark black, but where it kind of goes into more of a solid black. And one way you can do that is obviously thinner lines, you know, like a thinner line up here and then a thicker line down here. But you can also do it, or a combination. You can go thinner to thick, but then you can also make them closer together. So the further you space something apart, the lighter it's going to be, and the closer the lines are, the heavier it's going to be. So that's how you can transition from like a white into a black. So it's a little trick, and I just see a lot of your hatching like up here and here and here. It's all similar. It's kind of, they're all the same. There's no fade into a gray or transition, you know, from a white to a black. So always remember, I'm sure you already know this, but like you have open areas, which are your whites, and then you have your hatching, which is the gray tone, and then the blacks, which are obviously the shadows. So the hatching is really important because it's the transition sometimes between the two. And also hatching is what really delineates the work from like a coloring book type inking. So that's the majority of what I see on this page.
Allie in the chat wanted to thank you and said he was learning a lot from your videos.
Hey, thanks, Allie, and welcome to the live portfolio reviews. It's always good to hear back from you guys, so I know I'm not just wasting my time. Sometimes it just feels like I'm talking to myself, I like that Taylor's here because at least there's somebody that's listening that I know is listening anyway. Yeah, I just want to point out, like, Kieran, like, this explosion, this is really cool. That's really good stuff. Like, I like that. I like your line weights too on all the figure stuff. Um, the outlines are really good. They're really polished. They're real smooth. I sometimes the inking on this foreground leg is good, but sometimes it's fun, um, especially if it's more linear style. Like, you can be like really bold with it. Just really enhance the line weights, and then you make that foot like look like it's really coming at you. And it also, it's like it's almost on its own plane, like it becomes a real like foreground element in the shot. And then what I would do similarly is you have this that's way too thick. um, it looks like a freeze ray, like Mr. Freeze or something. That's too thick too. Bear with me, I'll find it.
Captain Cold.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's Captain Cold. That's it. Yeah. So that's too thin. So, like, where it's a trick that you can do where there's if that's pretty, just mono, just the same line weight all the way through. And I'm not saying go, obviously going to be an exaggeration, but where you taper the line, so as it comes more forward, it becomes thicker, and as it goes away, it's thinner. So it's also a way to build dynamics. So these rays are coming from off screen or off panel, so they can be pretty darn thick. And also by doing this, um, we're prioritizing how you see it, so you know that these are really coming from in front of the flash, and that this leg is coming in front of the figure, and then this nice line weight that you have on the buildings and things back here get pushed into the background. And then the explosion has its own priority because it's it's black, it's really heavy, so it stands out on its own. So on this piece, the main thing I see is just hatching and try to prioritize like a thin to thick, and so all your hatching can be more diverse in approach, and then just kind of push your foreground elements a little bit more. This leg and the explosion. If these are indeed your pencils, and if this is professional pencils, which I think they are, I apologize for not knowing who this is. So it's not Captain Cold. It looks like somebody that has a similar Captain Cold powers. That's a pretty cool design. Reminds me of Mysterio. It's actually very, very cool. If these are your pencils, my friend, there's no reason you shouldn't be working professional. Gosh, some of this, guys, so close to who this guy is. I can't quite place it. But yeah, this is really good. Nice line weights. You're hatching. I still see the same issues. Here's and the foreground stuff. So here's where, once again, you can kind of have a lot of fun with some heavier line weights. Like, if it's really in the extreme foreground, you can really push the line weight. So I would, with these foreground, pump it up, and then these rocks here kind of, they're still in the foreground, but I would make them a little more pronounced with a thicker line weight. To try to, you can already see kind of how these things, they also strangely become less competitive with the image, because with the heavier line weight, you know it's in the foreground, so you kind of look past it, and then you come into this tool, this area better here. So it almost becomes a way of like pushing it. You know, I know why my red isn't a non-full opacity. So yeah, there's that. The hatching similar. Your structure stuff is really, really good. Here's one of those places where you could probably play with the line weight more, have it coming forward. And just to clarify, it's not just this outline piece, but it would be all like these pieces here too. Like as these come closer, make them thicker. So every one of these little pieces here becomes thicker than the one before. So this way you're showing that it's coming forward. So this first one, this second one, and this third one should all have different line weights, and it will help sell that it's coming forward, coming at you. But this is really good, Kieran. Friends. Are these Ron Friends' pencils? I see Friends on this one. I don't know. So I think somebody was talking the other day about ghost images when there's multiple images. Wow, this building is penciled really nice. Look at this detail back here.
Drawn too, and not in SketchUp.
Yeah. It's real.
Yeah, that was me, Sherman says, of the people talking about the ghosted images.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Sherman. Here's kind of, um, he is prioritizing the line weights here. And, I think they're relying more on the colorist, although the line weight back here is thinner than the line weight here, but this middle line weight is still a little thick. So I think what I would have done is keep the line weight here in the foreground, and then maybe make this middle figure a little thinner, and then this one even thinner. But keeping in mind that you want to still make them look relatively solid, because this is relying on, this whole panel is relying on these other figures. The older school way was they would break these lines up, so the line would kind of have like these breaks in various places, and so the breaks would kind of imply that it's not as solid. So they would break it in places on the figure. And so what it would do is it would change the priority of the way you're looking at it. And so then as it pushed back, there would maybe be more breaks. So it's not just like prioritizing the actual line weights, but also like this is more of an older school. They don't do it as much anymore, but this is another approach that you can take to the flash or a ghosted. And I think it would depend on your relationship with the penciler if you wanted to try to do something like this. So maybe run it by him and say, you know, What if I broke the lines a little bit on the figure, just to give, push it back in the distance a little bit. So let's see what we have here. Yeah, it's not really great, but it's kind of, you can already see this flashback, this figure back here is kind of diminishing. But I think it's one of those things that you would have to do in Inception as you're working on it to make the breaks seem organic and stuff. But yeah, there's that. And I notice where the pencilers indicated the line weights, you're pretty good. But where some of the line weights aren't really indicated, um, it's not quite as solid. So some of these rocks, once again, they're kind of in the foreground. Don't be afraid to kind of beef some of the line weights up a little bit. These ones are good, but these ones are a little bit more in the foreground, and sometimes even these impact things, make them a little bolder. Don't be afraid just because it's not a figure or something, because like by doing that and then leaving this back one over here the same as it already is, then you can see this foot is already, it's coming forward, and there's more unity in this whole, the foot and this action that's going on here versus the way it was, where it just kind of gets lost. The color will help, but we should never rely on specifically a colorist to pull this stuff out. We should always make sure that the inks, the storytelling is prioritized in a way for the reader to see it clearly. Here is a little trick. Let's see how thick this is, that you can do. I got the wrong color. And what it does is it will help break up some of this, and it'll make, it's going to be a weird tangent here on the window, but by doing this, especially through the window here, and when you do these white lines, always make sure they're on the same side of the line. Like I'm going on the bottom of each one of these action lines, so make sure that they're always on the same side, otherwise you get yourself into a really bad mess, and it becomes just kind of hard to figure out where the line should be. So always, if you're going to go on the bottom on all of them. If you're going to go on the top on all of them. It really doesn't matter how you prioritize it, just that it's consistent with all of them. So I'm going to finish this up real fast. I'm trying to get these wrapped up quicker. Let me find it. So you can kind of, let me make it a little smaller. You can kind of see now how they're looking, the action lines, the movement lines are looking less structural and more like action lines. And then the building, because they're in front of the building, and they're all made up, it's imaginary, you don't see that in real life. But in comics, this is kind of the language. If you break these lines, then they don't create like structure. You don't see it as a structure, you see it more as like just these lines. And then of course you would continue that throughout the entire piece. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but it really does help the reader see things and prioritize stuff better. Let me make it a little bigger so you can see. So once again, any questions, fire away. So yeah, really good, Kieran. Yeah, once again, these are The hatching on the forehead's really nice, right here. This is a good sweep too. I'm not sure if you're, sometimes I can't tell. They kind of look a little digitally or digital to me. And maybe that's kind of the problem with some of your fades. Brush or the tool that you're using isn't allowing you, or you're not mixing them up enough to get a variety. But your outlines are really solid. Now that I look at this more, I think this probably is digital inks. And once again, if these are your pencils, you should be working professionally, Kieran, because that's why I'm not even critiquing the pencils, because they look pretty amazing. So keep at it. I'd say you're so close. Work, for about, I don't know, 6, 8 months. Really diligent, a lot of different people, and work on developing your style. I don't know how you develop a style, to be honest, digitally, because the tools are so rigid, and everybody that's using the same brush it's going to basically be used the same way. So the reason I don't really ink digitally is just because it just seems kind of cookie cutter or soulless to me personally. And also, I do take things in digitally after I ink them. I do cleanups and sometimes effects and things like that digitally. But most of the time, it's all just practical with a Hunt 102, or just my Winsor Newton watercolor brush Series 7. Those are my tools of choice. But very good. Keep at it. Don't lose faith. And once again, my disclaimer: don't don't take this to heart. This is all for fun. Um, we're just having fun with this. It's just my point of view. It could be totally, I could be totally off on all this, but to be honest, I don't think so. After 30 years, I think I know a little bit. Anyway, I'm going to give you guys a little treat, and I hope it's a treat. It's a treat for me. I'm going to show you how I kind of take some of my old work. This is from '94. This is black and white. I published it through Image. It was a big hit of the time, and screen it for a crowdfunding that we're hoping to do either through Indiegogo or Kickstarter. We still haven't figured out. We're about 2/3 of the way done with the first issue. But I'm really excited, and I want to show you this. And I thought, since we're doing video, I'd be able to show you the process. Maybe I'll do that later, but I'm going to just show you kind of before and after
Someone
shots.
would like to know if you pencil digitally or traditionally.
What I'm doing...
And they recognize black and white.
Ooh, cool. What I'm doing more and more is I'll do the initial sketch on a small piece of paper, like a thumbnail, and then I'll bring it to as far as I can, clean up, make sure the proportions and the rhythm and balance are all correct. And then what I do is I'll scan it, and then I'll fool around with it in Photoshop. Like, I'll move eyes around, head sizes. Like, there's one thing I do notoriously. I'll move one eye over to like a 3/4 shot over to the side a little too much. It's not close enough to the eye bridge or the nose bridge. And then what I do sometimes is I'll make heads a little too big for the bodies. And so there's innate things that I do that I can't see when I'm working on it at the time, but when I scan it and I bring it in Photoshop, I can play with it. And I think the reason for that is because, not that I get too attached to the work, it's just like, if I want to change something, I have to fully erase it, and then I have to redraw it in the new position. And sometimes, like, it's just a whim, like, oh, I just want to do this. I want to move this eye over, or I want to move this shoulder over, whatever, just to see if it's right or not. And sometimes, if you do that practically, like if you do it right on the paper, it can take a lot of time, because you have to redraw that entire shoulder or the arm or whatever when you move it over. But digitally, you can just kind of grab the arm and then move it over quickly. So if it's just a whim or just a hunch, like I think this is wrong, digitally you can do it so much faster, and you can, like I said, it's not that I get attached to it or I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to redraw it, because I will. It's just a time thing. And so I can do it so much faster digitally. So I get the drawing, I kind of bring it to a certain point, like a little thumbnail. I scan it, and then I just play with it in Photoshop. And also sometimes what happens in Photoshop is kind of like the mirror test. You know, you hold up your art up to a mirror, and if you see it in a reverse, you can kind of see the mistakes quicker. For some reason in Photoshop, when I do that, and I can blow it up and down and I can move it around, seeing it in a different format actually helps me see the flaws in it. So I'm really liking that, but I don't draw it from start to finish in Photoshop. I'm still playing with the Wacom. You can hear my mouse click, so I'm pretty good with the mouse, and I do draw. You know, when I'm augmenting things and stuff, I do draw with the mouse, and all the stuff you see or you will see, I've done with the mouse. So let's get on with this. So here's the first tier. This is Whitney, poor Whitney. And so then here's the mysterious, the man in black. And then she's like, what? So look at that face, yikes. And so that's the last tier. So like I said, this is work I did in '94. So I'm gonna get rid of some of these tabs just so I don't click on them. So this is the original, and so then this is the new. So I'll give you a moment to look at it, and then I'll do like a before and after. So you can see what I've basically done digitally is I've come in and solidified the line a little bit more. I've indicated more solid blacks, and in some cases, I've digitally redrawn entire faces and things like that. So let me see. Let's go here so you can see it better before and after. So I hope this isn't boring you, because I feel like it's a little self-indulgent. But I'm very proud of this and I want to show it off. So you can get an idea. So this is before, this is '94. And you can kind of see, you know, Whitney's face here. And she's a little witchy looking, witches. But then you can see the remaster.
That handsome Reed face.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that. But so that's her, and that's her redone. So you can see some of the backgrounds are cleaned up. The figure's a little bit solid, more solid, the line weights. There's some more solid blacks that are brought in. So I think this looks more contemporary for the time. And then, like Taylor pointed out, look at Reed Blackett, aka Black. Before, hi, I'm not drawn very well. And then now, boom. So I also wanted to show you, like, can progress as an artist even years later. So this is like 25 years later. So it's kind of a before, after, and then a special treat. The entire page finished. So this is Sean Ellery's colors. We wanted to work with him on the entire book, but things just didn't work out. So I'm leaning towards maybe using some of his pages. So this might be news to him. So Sean, if I use your work, you'll get a big check from me, and we'll work it out. But
Matt says he vastly prefers the solid blacks that you've added.
Yes, good. I'm moving in the right direction. Thank you. And so this is the finished version. So let's go these last two panels and see if we can do some matchups. and then we'll wrap this episode up. Let's see if this all works. Pretty much. Okay, so here's 1994 inks, pencils and inks. Here's contemporary pencils and inks, and this is with coloring. So we're really, really proud of this. Taylor, who's helping me, also my co-writer. So we got a lot of new things, a lot of new twists, a lot of things planned. So it's going to be a remaster of the original 3 issues that we did, my wife and I did in '94. So we're totally remastering it head to toe. So you can obviously see the artwork, but the dialogue is going to be kind of brought up to contemporary times. Hell, they were using newspapers and stuff like that for information in this story. That'll show you how old it was. So there wasn't even computers or cell phones or anything. So some of the scenes we've actually added computer screens and cell phones to the storytelling, just to kind of, bring it to a contemporary place. So anyways, that's that. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for indulging me. Let me show off for a minute here. Keep tuning in. Keep asking questions. Thank you so much for the questions, by the way. I really like it. This is a community that we're trying to build, so it only works, with you guys interacting. And let's leave it on this page because it's kind of cool. And so keep it up. Keep tuning in. Tell a friend. Like, subscribe, get the word out. And thanks, man. Have a good day.